This conference will now be recorded.
Let's start today's session. In the last session, we were discuss about functions, how to create function, how to call a function with different types of parameters like two parameters, single parameter, function with return statement, without return statements. And also we were discuss about types of variables in functions like local variables, global variables we were discuss in the last session. And in today's session, I'm going to discuss types of arguments in functions. So what are the types of arguments are there? How to use them? We'll discuss. Let us consider a function, simple function, add function, a comma b. This function is having two parameters and a and b. This also called as arguments. So a plus b I'm using in the function body. I'm calling the function 1020 only. I'm calling the function like 1020, add of 1020. So add function I'm calling 1020, 10 plus 20, 30, for example. Okay. Now coming to this here, A, B are formal arguments. Here 10, 20 are actual arguments. 10, 20 are actual arguments. A, B are what arguments? Formal arguments. 10, 20 are what arguments? Actual arguments only. But in Python programming, yes, A, B arguments are formal arguments only, sir. Why? Because A, B are going to accept values from the calling place. These are formal arguments. We are passing the values to the function directly. These arguments are called actual arguments. In Python, four types of actual arguments are there. Okay, four types of actual arguments. Four types of actual arguments. One is positional arguments. Next one is keyword arguments. Keyword arguments. Third one is default arguments. Next one is variable length arguments. Variable length arguments. Yes. Positional arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments, variable length arguments. These are the four types of arguments are there in functions. Okay. First we'll look into positional arguments. This is simple. Positional arguments means the arguments which are passed to a function, the arguments which are passed to a function in correct positional order. In correct positional order is called positional arguments. Is called positional arguments. The arguments which are passed to a function in correct positional order is called positional arguments. Okay. If we change the order or position, then result may change. If we change the order or position, result may change, sir. Result may change. If we change the order or position, then result may change. If we increase or decrease the number of arguments, if we increase or decrease the number of arguments, then we will get error. Then we'll get error. This is okay. So the arguments which are passed to a function in correct positional order is called positional arguments. If we change the order or position, then result may change. If we increase or decrease the number of arguments, then we'll get error. Okay. Yes. we'll get error. Please mute your audio. Someone, Mr. Rajendra, mute your audio. Yeah, now you can see positional arguments, keyword arguments, default arguments, variable length arguments. 4 types of actual arguments are available. So positional arguments means the arguments which are passed to a function in correct positional order is called positional argument. If we change the order or position, then result may change. If we increase or decrease the number of arguments, then result will we will get error actually. Okay. So first we'll see positional argument example here. I'm trying to discuss about positional argument example. Let's go for positional argument example. Let's consider this function, subtract function, AB, print sub is A minus B I'm taking. Next, coming to this, I'm calling this function with position first value A value 10, B value A value 20, B value 10 I'm passing. Actually, this is my correct position I want to pass, which I want to pass values to the function. 20 is the A value, 10 is the B value. So this time you'll get clear output 20 minus 10, 10 only. In case while calling, if I change the order of arguments like 10 comma 20, if I change the order arguments like 10 20, now you can see we are getting minus 10, means result is changed or not. You change the position of the arguments from here to here. First position is A value 20, B value 10. Next time when we call position of A is 10 and position of B is 20, so result may change. So these arguments are called positional arguments. You have to pass correct positional order. You have to pass correct positional order only. If you change the order, then result may change. If increase or decrease number of arguments, then we'll get what errors are actually. Let's try to increase or decrease. Suppose I'm increase the number of arguments. Actually, your function is having 2 arguments, A, B, but you are supplying three arguments. So it's not going to work out. So sub function takes 2 positional arguments, but 3 were given here, saying clearly. Okay. Even if you decrease the arguments also, like only 1 argument I'm taking, so this also gives error. Sub function missing 1 required positional argument, that is B only. So we are A value we are getting like 20, but B is what actually not supplied. Compulsory while creating function, how many types of arguments are there? That many types of values you have to supply. Otherwise, it will give error. So this is correct positional order only we are getting less. Sub is 10, result sub is minus 10, result is same. So this is positional arguments. Next I'm talking about keyword arguments. See, keyword arguments means don't think so. These are Python keywords. Python keywords are different and function keywords are different. In general, when we create a function with parameters, each and every parameter is considered as a keyword to the function only. Each and every value or parameter to the function is keyword. It acts as a keyword only. So keyword arguments I'm discussing now. Let's try to write some important points related to keyword arguments. Keyword arguments means the arguments which are passed to the function, which are passed to a function. The arguments which are passed to a function by using keyword or parameter name is called keyword arguments. Is called keyword arguments like this. The arguments which are passed to a function by using keyword or parameter name is called keyword arguments. While working with keyword arguments, while working with keyword arguments, while working with keyword arguments, order or position is not important. Order or position, order or position is not important. But keywords are important, sir. Keywords are important. Important. Keywords are important. While working with keyword arguments, the order of the arguments or position of the argument is not important, but keywords are important. In keyword arguments, if we change the order of the arguments also, result will not change. That is the advantage, because we are going to use parameter names and keyword names clearly. So based on that, order will not be, result will not be changed. Let's try to discuss about keyword arguments example. def f1 function I'm taking parameters for the f1 function is two parameters, name and message. This name and message msg or act as a keyword for this function. So that's called keyword arguments only. The arguments which are passed to a function by using keyword name or parameter name is called keyword arguments. Let's print the body of the function here. Let's print hello, I can say, then name message. I'm calling the function with f1 name equals to, first let me go for positional arguments. Okay, for example, Mohan is the positional, that is name position, message is hi. Okay, next this is positional arguments actually. Once we run this, now you can see hello Mohan, hi. Hello is there here, default string. Mohan will go to first parameter, that is first keyword name. I is go to MSG. But actually, this is not a keyword arguments example right now. This is a positional arguments only I'm taking. Because position 1 is Mohan, position 2 is hi only. Let's go for change the position. So hi I'm changing, position Mohan later. You know, just now we discussed positional arguments. When we change the position or order, result may change or not. Yes, let's see this result is changing. First hello Mohan, hi. Next hello, hi Mohan is coming. The result is clearly changed. So these arguments are called positional arguments. In the positional arguments point of view, if we change the order of the arguments or position of the arguments, result will be changed. That we notice that. This is positional arguments. Next, I'm talking about keyword arguments. Keyword arguments. In the keyword arguments, we have to supply keyword names. Name equals to Mohan, and next message equals to what actually hi. So now this time you can see name equals to Mohan, MSG message equals to hi. So these two are keywords. Okay. So let's run this. We got correct result. Mohan, hello Mohan, hi only. But just observe in the keyword arguments, even I change the position. First message I'm giving like this hi. Later I'm just taking name. But order, even though if you change the order, result will not change in this case. Look at these two lines, line number 10 and 11. Order is changed, but keywords are not changed. Here you can see name equals to Mohan, MSG message equals to hi. Message equals to hi, name equals to Mohan. Even I change the order, but result is changed, no change. Look at here, this is last two lines, result of this 10, 20, 10, 12, 10, 11 lines. So in the keyword arguments, order is not important, but keywords are important. Using these keywords or parameter name only, result will be same. Okay. So this is the difference between positional arguments and keyword arguments clearly. But we can also use one keyword arguments, keyword and one positional arguments. One positional arguments are. We can also use one keyword arguments and one positional arguments. Both simultaneously we can use it, sir. But make sure that whenever we are using simultaneously one keyword arguments and one positional arguments, first, but make sure that first we have to provide. First, we have to provide positional arguments only. Positional args only. After that, we have to go for keyword arguments. Otherwise, it will give error, sir. We can also use one keyword and one positional arguments, but make sure that first we have to provide positional arguments, then after what keyword arguments only. Otherwise, we'll get error. Let's see this. I'm taking first positional argument, Mohan, keyword argument, message equals to hi. This is no problem at all. So it will run, sir, clearly. Hello, Mohan, hi. But try to pass first only keyword arguments like name equals to Mohan, and then later we are using positional arguments like hi. That will give error, sir. Underline red squiggly is there, that indicates something wrong. When we place mouse pointer on hi, so now you can see positional argument after keyword arguments, it's saying positional argument after keyword arguments. So as I said that first we have to mention positional arguments, then after keyword arguments only. If I forcefully run this, you will get syntax error. According to Python syntax, while working with positional arguments as well as keyword arguments, first we have to mention positional arguments, then after we have to mention keyword arguments. Here clearly says that positional argument follows keyword arguments clear. This is the importance of orders here. So this is not going to work. Let's comment this by using control /. So these are the rules and regulations, sir, while working with positional arguments and keyword arguments, both the cases. Okay. So these rules and regulations are important, especially when we are dealing with functions concept in Python. Otherwise, you'll get syntactical errors. You can avoid that mistakes by following these rules and regulations. This is about keyword arguments, which we discuss. Next, we have third argument is there, default arguments. Sometimes we can pass, sometimes we can work with functions without passing any values also. In general, when your function is having one parameter, compulsory, while calling that function, you should supply one parameter value. That is common. If you don't supply, then your function will give clearly error. Your function will give what's error. Error will give. Okay. So next, my requirement is, even though my function is having, even though when we don't supply any value to my function should work still properly. In that context, we can go for default arguments. So when we don't supply any values to the function, your function will work fine by taking its default value only, by taking its default value. So let's see practical implementation, how default argument will work in the functions context only. Okay, let's try to use function with default argument. But generally, when we create a function with default argument, function when this function will work only when we don't supply any value to the function. But if we supply the value to the function, your supplied value only will be considered, sir. Okay, your supplied value only will be considered. Let's try to work on it. Default arguments, how it will work. Default arguments. Default argument. Sometimes we can call a function without passing any value. In that case, function will work properly by taking its default value. Is called default arguments. Let's try to work with default arguments here. Let's go to other program. Now my function name is f1. My function is having default value. Not right now, it don't have any default value. Just one value parameter is there, that is course. Just I'm printing here course is comma course. I'm calling the function, but just observe here, as soon as when we call the function and the function f1, it is expecting what's our one course value here. Okay, course value. So next you can see reformat the file, ignore errors like this. Okay, no problem. Reformat the file. Now you can see course value is expecting clearly. What course value here? Okay, so any course value you can supply, but if I don't supply any course value, then function will give error clearly. Now this time is not executing test2, we have to execute test2. Now you can see this function f1 is having course parameter. Parameters are input values to the function. When we create a function with parameter, that you have to supply values to this, but you don't supply any value. So that's what f1 function missing one required positional argument course only. If I supply the course like this, like C language, I'm supplying. See here. Now this time, once I run this, now you can see course is C language. But sometimes my requirement is if I don't supply any value to this also, then my function should work properly with it by its taking default value. Right now at this moment, this function will call only line number 5 and line number 8 code through only, but line number 6 and 7 are invalid calling because we don't supply any value to this function codes. But still, if you want to work with all the cases, if you don't supply any value or if you supply the value, then default course equals to what actually I'm taking default course is Python. Course is Python. Once I run this, now you can see all the ways it will work fine. Your function is working fine, sir. Line number 5, we are calling f1 function by supplying the course value C. And line number 6, no course value. By default, it takes Python. Line number 7, no course value we are supplying. By default, it is taking Python. And C++ F1, that is C++. So that means what? Though you create a function with a default parameter value, but when we call the function with your value only will be considered, your supplied value only. In case if you don't supply any value for this f1 function, default value will be considered. So you will avoid some errors. By mistake, programmer not supply any value also. By default, it takes default parameter value and working fine clearly. So this is what default arguments in Python. But in this context, I want to tell you one thing. So let's write my description about the program. Actually, we can also use one default argument and one non-default argument, sir. Non-default argument. One default argument, one non-default argument. Both we can use simultaneously or parallel. But in this context, make sure that non-default argument first, then after default argument. Okay. In this case, non-default arguments is first, then after default arguments. We can also use one default argument and one non-default argument. In this case, non-default argument is first, then after default argument you have to use. Okay, so this is the case exactly. So first let's try to use after default argument, non-default argument I am passing, that is name only. Means while calling this f1 function, name also I should supply and course also supply. But look at here, this is default argument, but non-default argument we use later when we place mouse pointer on it. So IntelliSense says clearly, non-default parameter follows default parameter. Okay, non-default parameter follows default parameter. But actually here, default parameter is follows non-default parameter. This is not right. So let's execute forcefully. You'll get same syntax error here. Non-default argument follows default argument. This is the error actually. Okay, but let's cut this, and I'm taking first only default argument, that is name. This is valid. Here also I'm supplying for printing purpose name. Now this time when we call f1 function, name is compulsory, we have to supply. There is no chance. Suppose I'm supplying name is Sai. After that course not required. But if you press course, then C value only. So Sai course is what? C language. Here I'm taking Mohan. Mohan course, I'm not supplying anything. So Mohan course is by default what? Python only. Even if I try to give Durga, Durga course is what actually? Python only. Again, here what I'm trying to do, just what we can say. Here some name I'm passing Raj. Raj course is C language, C++. So name we supply, Sai course is what? Python, not Python, C language, because we are supplying course value. This course only consider when we don't supply any value to this function. Then default course will be considered for Mohan and Durga. Let's run this. So we can also work with one default argument, one non-default argument. In this context, always non-default argument, which is must and should supply argument is first, then after default argument later on. So this is function with different types of arguments. Next, last argument is there, sir. That is variable length arguments. We can say that. What is variable length arguments means? Sometimes we can call a function by passing different number of values, including zero number. In general, when you have a function with one parameter, you must and should call that function with one parameter input only. But in case if we don't supply any value to the function, then it will give error. But my requirement is not like that. I want to call a function, okay, by supplying any number of input values, including zero number. Sometimes if I don't supply any values, it's okay. And if I can supply two values, four values, eight values, 10 values, any number of values we can supply to the function will work. Function should work. In that context, we can go for variable length arguments. So how to define a function with variable length arguments? Simple. Normally, when we define a function like this f1, n is my input parameters. So this is what actually n. So this function is having how many parameters? Only one. But once I add this variable n before one star symbol, then this indicates what variable length arguments. This is not a normal argument, it's a variable length arguments. So when we create a function with variable length arguments, that function will accept any number of values from the user, including zero number. So let's try to discuss about this. For example, in this program, I just want to create a function like f1. So my input is n. Print n I'm taking. Print n. After that f1 function I'm calling. We have to supply one value for this f1 function. Otherwise, it will give errors. Let's see. I don't want to supply any value for this function. Function missing one required positional argument n only. Let's pass one value. One value, it's okay, fine. But what about two values? What about zero values? No. So if I want to supply the function with values like 10, 20, two times, two values I'm supplying, three values I'm supplying, and sometimes I need to supply four, five values like that, like this. So any number of values I can pass it. But right now we cannot pass any number of values because your function is having normal one parameter like this n. So once I declare this f1 function with star n indicates what? Number of arguments to the function. Now you can see we can pass any number of values to the function, including zero number, I said, including zero number. Once I run this, including zero number. function with no parameters, no inputs, function with one input, function with two inputs, function with three inputs, like this. All input values are working because of star. This type of arguments is called variable length arguments. Sometimes we need to pass any number of values to the function, including zero number. In that context, we can go for variable length arguments. Sir, in what case we use this concept actually? So why do we need to pass this values here? Okay, let's try to give one quick example here. Suppose I'm taking one example here. Let's go for 4. Create one function, add function. Add function is having two parameters. Print a plus b. Just a plus b. Add function. I'm passing two values. Now just observe here. This function is going to accept only two values. This function is exclusively create for adding two numbers. Later, my requirement is I want to create a function adding three numbers, four numbers, five numbers, n numbers. But this function is only accept what's are two values. This function is only created for adding two numbers only, not for all. So if you want to add three more numbers, we have to create one more function. Or if you want to add five numbers, you have to create one more function, like that. So to avoid this situation, we can declare a function with variable length arguments like star n. But for your kind information, here n is not compulsory. You can take any name, star x, star y, and so on. But generally, most of the articles you are going to see star args. Okay, star args is there. Star args. Star args means that is variable length arguments only. Star args allows us to pass number of values to the function. Just let's take, to avoid confusion, just n only. N means star n means this function is accept all values, like including zero number, one number, two numbers, like that only. Okay. So in this case, my requirement is I want to add three numbers or four numbers, like this. I want to add different numbers: 4.5, 6.67, 78.5, 90.1, like this. Different values. I want to add 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, like this. So this time, this function will suitable because this is what actually variable length arguments. How do you recognize your variable is a variable length argument? Means your parameter is variable length arguments, means the arguments which is associated with star symbol. But when we call this add function, these two values directly will go and store in its collection like star n. But by default, variable length arguments values collection is what format? Tuple format only. So here n will store what format? All the values tuple. This is tuple format, tuple format. Every set of values are going to store in tuple format only. So let's try to add this all the values. First, I want to take one s variable for result storing purpose. S equals to 0. Next, for I in n. N means what collection? Tuple collection. When we call this function at line number 7, n value 10, 20. When we call this function 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 values. 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 4. So s value 0 for I in n. N means what actually? Collection. What collection? Tuple collection. So next s equals to s plus I am taking. Finally, we are printing s only. Sum is s. Sum is s, sir, actually. So this is the result. Once I run this, now you can see we are getting first 10, 20 numbers adding here. Then after that, 2, 3, 4, 5 added here, 14. Then after that, 2.3, 4.5, 6, 7, 8, 78.9, 90.1 as added here. Sum of 10, 20, 30, 40 is added here. But how the logic is going to work, let's try to discuss here. So the logic is very simple, sir. Let's try to use this logic. So first, let's keep the breakpoint here. And also here breakpoint, all that base. Once I start debugging, debugger window started in the bottom corner. Now let's try to hit the function key plus F8, sir. Once debugger window started, function key plus F8. I'm hitting function key plus F8 here. Let's try to use function key plus F8, sir. F8. Now you can see add function is taking 10, 20 and value. N is holding 10, 20 values. We can expand this drop down list. Now you can see 0 index, 1 index, what format it store, tuple format it store. So by default, variable length arguments, it will store in within its collection like tuple collection only. So next what I'm trying to do, S value 0. For I in N is holding what collection? 10, 20. I value which is taking first value 10. I value 10, S value 0. So here S value 0, 0 equals to 0 plus 10. 0 plus 10, how much? 10 only. 10 will be assigned to S only. Now 10 is assigned S. Next iteration for I in N, 20. Now S is 10. Here when we place mouse pointer on S, 10 is holding. When we place mouse pointer on S, 10 is holding. When we place mouse pointer on I, 20. 20 plus 10, how much it is? 30. 30 will be added to where? S variable. S is printing now. 30 value. Next iteration, add function with 4 arguments now. 4 values I'm passing. These are 4 values are stored into N collection. N collection is what collection now? Tuple collection only here. Tuple. Now 4 iterations are going to take place at this moment. Now you can see function key plus F8. S value 0 for I in N. N value, I value 2 from the N collection. 2 plus 0, 2 only. S value 2. Next, I value 3. S value 2. 3 plus 2, 5. S is 5. I value 3. I value 4. 5 plus 4, 9. 9 is their S value. Next, I value 5. 9 plus 5, 14. So 14 is the result. Next value. Similarly, like this. N value is having collection 2.3, 4.5, 6, 7, 78.9, 90.1. S value 0. Every value is coming from N collection, tuple collection added to the S variable only. So this function will work for any number of values we can supply to the function and we can add them. But previously to create one function for adding 2 numbers, that function is only reserved for adding 2 numbers. We cannot pass any number of values extra or any number of values more. So this time this function is suitable. This function is having what actually? Star n means it's a variable length arguments. N is a name, just you can use any name instead of n clearly. So this is completely variable length arguments. We can pass any number of values to the function. And most important interview question is, what is the star args will store values in which format? Means you should say tuple format by default only. So this is about variable length arguments clearly. Okay. So that's all about today's session. We discuss 4 types of arguments. From tomorrow onwards, all together 8 p.m. students and 9 p.m. students, you can join at 9 p.m. only at one session. Okay. So 9 p.m. sharp, I'll be there tomorrow on same link. Please go through it. And today, 8 p.m. students, you will receive 2 videos. Okay. Last session, 8 p.m. session and 9 p.m. this session also. 9 p.m. students, as usual, 1 video only. This is your lecture video. So see you tomorrow at 9 p.m. sharp on same link only.